You're watching CCN, Clarksville Community Network, produced by Goodwin Productions. Powered by CDE Lightband.
My name is Robert Lyle. Well, I would like to welcome you to Hangar 5, where TNT Aviation is got its maintenance set up. I'm a contractor for them from Rare Enterprises. I've been flying airplanes literally since I was 10 years old. Got to meet a lot of good people, including the people here in Clarksville at Outlaw Field. The growth here has been phenomenal. Clarksville is very friendly for businesses. The airfield personnel here have taken care of us generously. There was a blurb that said Clarksville is the best city in the United States to live in. And I thought, is that true? So let's go check that out. And so I did. And for me, I have to tell you, it is. One morning I was coming down Airport Road, or the Outlaw Field Road, and I just looked at the aircraft ready to take off, and I thought, you know, this is my home now. It's a good home, and it's a good life. As you can see, we've got major overhauls, major engine pulls. We do cylinders, whatever aircraft needs there are, whether they be reciprocating, internal combustion, jet, turbine, or what have you. We do share this hangar with Austin P on their aviation science department, which they fly helicopters. As you can see, we've got a major component right out of this aircraft right here. This is a very unusual engine. It's an IO 720, which is an 8-cylinder horizontally opposed engine. It's one of the largest ones that you can find, and it goes into a small aircraft like this, which makes this aircraft probably, when the engine is on there, the fastest one single on this field. We do general maintenance. We change tires, we change oil. Work for a great couple of guys, Tim Jacobs and Travis Azure, who own TNT Aviation. Our business is growing, like Clarksville is, and we're all happy to be here. Everyone here is super talented. Someone will have an answer for any problem. I was in the Navy, and was with VF 102, a squadron that flew F4s. I had the opportunity to fly something that others regard as a phenomenal aircraft, or I guess regarded as a flying brick, if you will. Bricks of that caliber fly at about 1,500 miles an hour or faster, and the carrier that I was on was the CV-62 USS Independence. The USS Independence CV-62 was the second most decorated vessel in the naval fleet besides the Enterprise. A lot of people think that horse racing is the sport of kings. I'm sorry to tell you, it's not. It's aviation. You have to work for it. You really have to want it. Aviation has always been a wonderment for a lot of people. You look back at some of the greats, Amelia Earhart, what have you, the crowds that gathered. I think that there's a lot of room for the younger generation to come out, and that's what aviation is about. It's mentoring the next generation to make sure that they're prepared for whatever's coming around. We're still here, and we're still flying airplanes, and we're still fixing airplanes. And we intend to continue to do that until we can't. This is a necessity for our communities, for the community's health, economic growth, and for transportation needs that require immediate assistance. We have life flights that go out of here. We have medical aircraft that fly in. This is the front door. It's like it looks like a concrete carpet, but it's actually the red carpet right into the front door to Clarksville, right out there. 6,000 feet. You know, miles of smiles.
So my name is Josh Jones. I'm a flight instructor here at Clarksville Regional Airport, Outlaw Field. My job is basically taking students and teaching them how to obtain a private pilot commercial instrument license through the FAA, instruction in the aircraft, and then also doing some ground school with them. Basic instruction consists of somebody that wants to pursue aviation as a hobby or a career. We take them from 0 flight hours. As a service here at Outlaw Field, we provide the airplane, the flight instruction, and then obviously we use different airfields around the area. So we got Outlaw Field here and some of the other surrounding airfields that we do a lot of training in. Although we do have a lot of military personnel that are getting their rudder wing transition to a fixed wing, it is not required, although there is a reduced amount of training that is required from the military. The majority of our customers that come here are either military transition students where they've got their rudder wing license and they're transitioning over to try to get a civilian rating for once they get out of the military. And also we get a lot of younger students that are wanting to pursue aviation, fresh out of high school. Or even we have some older professionals that just want to do it as a hobby, just flying locally around the area to go somewhere and have lunch and then come back for the day. So it's a very wide gamut of military, younger individuals, and also hobbyists. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Kansas and then got stationed here at Fort Campbell. Recently got out of the military and pursued teaching fixed wing aviation here at Outlaw Field. I didn't have any aviation experience. I didn't get my license till I was 24. I had no family members that were pilots. I had a flight with a friend. I got the aviation bug and then got an aviation degree and then pursued different fixed wing civilian ratings. I have 2 kids that are 2 and 3 years old, and we take them frequently on flights around. Instead of driving, we try to incorporate a flight to go see grandparents. They have a genuine excitement for aviation. Every airplane that flies over the top, they think that I'm flying it, and they always scream and say, "Yeah, Daddy, there's Daddy." But I could even be holding them and they'd be like, "There's Dad." Like, no, no, no. There's not a better office view inside of an airplane. Whether it be 1,500 feet or 6,000 feet, but also the other part of being a flight instructor is taking somebody that has no aviation background whatsoever and transitioning him to be able to take his own check ride and then becoming a private pilot and watching him go on with his professional career in aviation.
Bob Vaughn, Vanderbilt Life Flight 3. I've been with the program 11 years since retiring out of Fort Campbell. Former Black Hawk pilot out of Fort Campbell. Here we fly 1 pilot and 2 med crew, either 1 nurse or 1 paramedic, or sometimes I'm with 2 nurses, as I am today. So I'm basically their pilot. I get them from point A to point B, wherever they need to go, and then they are the miracle workers that take care of the patient in the back. Normally, tones will go off like a fire department. If everything's good, we'll pick up the helicopter via the heliporter, push her on out. We all do a walk around of the aircraft, make sure there's no latches unlatched or anything that was left out, nothing that's dangling from the aircraft. Once we've done that, I'll climb in and I'll prep the aircraft for departure. The med crew's usually last to get out there, and they'll do their walk around, secure all the doors. Once everybody's good, we'll go ahead and depart. At that point, it's whatever the mission is. From the time I get the call and I accept the flight, I'm supposed to be airborne within 10 minutes. When I have to go to some of these scene flights where I'm either on a highway or in a field and there's trees around, having a smaller aircraft is more nimble to get in and out is an advantage. We have twin engine, so if I did lose an engine, it'll still fly on 1 engine. It'll fly as long as I have fuel. From our base, we can fly out 60 miles either direction, pick up a 250-pound patient, and be able to fly him back to Vanderbilt. Every call is a little different. We, Vanderbilt, has set up with Montgomery County and Stewart County and Dixon County PELAs, and that stands for Pre-Established Landing Areas. So other than highways, there's already a piece of land in that area where the incident may have happened that we can go to that's already been surveyed for our obstacles, wires, trees, telephone poles, whatever the case may be, and has been determined that it was suitable enough for one aircraft and sometimes two aircraft to get in there and out. Most of the challenging landing areas usually happen at night. We do wear night vision goggles, but it's still a little bit more of a challenge to see. Very safe with the night vision goggles. If I go into a field and then it's been freshly plowed or mowed, you get that debris start to fly up. It can affect you a little bit. But for the most part, Montgomery County, Stewart County, Dixon, they are very good at picking our landing zones for us. But that's why the crew is very vigilant when we're getting ready to land. We have what we call sterile cockpit, where we don't talk about anything but the task at hand. That's landing the aircraft or taking off. You know, there is a lot of sitting around waiting for a call. Some days you're really busy, 2, maybe 3 calls, and some days you don't get a call at all. So we hope for the call, but there are times that it makes for a long day when you don't get a call. My friend Greg, the other pilot, he flew a friend of mine that we ride Harley Davidsons together. He was in the Army with me, and he was in a head-on on Highway 12 with a car, and matter of fact, Michelle, she was the one that treated him, and we flew him from the scene in Highway 12 off of out in Sango area to Vanderbilt, and Greg, the pilot, he knows the person and didn't recognize him from the accident, but recognized the boots, and he commented on the boots. He goes, "Those boots look familiar." And as they loaded them, he flew them to Vanderbilt, they offloaded, and then they told him who it was, and so he knew him. But his life was saved, and 2 months later, he was out of the hospital and back on a Harley Davidson, doing it again. And if I'm wearing my flight suit, I get off shift and I go to Walmart to get something, there's usually someone in there that says, "Hey, you flew my daughter, you flew my son, you flew me," or, you know, "Thank you," and that kind of thing, which makes my day. It's a good thing. Whether I did it or not, it's the Vanderbilt, and really it's the Vanderbilt nurses that are the real heroes. They couldn't get there without me. In the helicopter they couldn't. They could take the car, but they won't get there in the helicopter. But as far as the saving the life part, they are very educated, very smart. If I was hurt, that's who I'd want to work on me.
I'm Michelle. I'm Chief Flight Nurse here at Life Flight 3 in Clarksville. I started flying, this is my 20th year of flying, 30th year of being a nurse. I have almost 1,300 patient transports. And I started flying because actually our program manager, Jeannie Yateman, flew into a small hospital I was working at, into the emergency department. And I was so impressed with her, I thought, I want to do that. So it took me 10 years, but I finally got everything that I needed. Went through some grueling interviews, and they finally took a chance on me. I had my first child very young. My labor and delivery nurse was awesome, and I thought that's what I want to do with my life. Worked at a small hospital in labor and delivery, and eventually those doctors just kind of dwindled away with the healthcare reform and things like that. A lot of doctors stopped practicing labor and delivery for liability reasons. So at that time they started pulling me to the emergency department, and that's where I started off in my emergency nursing career. Well, in a helicopter you don't have a lot of space. Our medical director compares it to functioning in a bathtub with a very critical patient. So if you can picture that, that's kind of how we deal with things. We have a lot of autonomy. I love that part about it. So our knowledge base is to where we can make decisions and not have to have a physician there telling us what to do. We have protocols and then we have autonomy to make our own decisions. The 145, she's our baby. We love her. But we do have a variety of different aircraft in our program. We have 145, 135s, and 130s. The smaller the aircraft is, the more turbulence you get. So a 145 on a windy day, it's just like a blow, like a soft blow. You get into a 135 with the same wind and you can really feel it. Although the pilots like to fly the 135 more than the 145. This is the Cadillac, 135 is the sports car. We work 24 and a 12, so it's a 36-hour week for us. The 12 hours we call princess shifts because basically that's what they are for us. Sometimes we come in and on a 24-hour shift, you can start flying at the beginning of your shift and not stop till the next morning. Those are very challenging shifts for us. Usually that takes maybe 4 to 5 flights depending on the area and the distance to Nashville or wherever they're going. So that can be very challenging for us as far as when to eat, can we get a safety nap in? If we have a maintenance day or a weather day, then the 24-hour shifts become very long. They become very boring. We all have assignments that we do besides transport patients, but you can't do that for 24 hours straight. So that is also a challenge. There's never a fine line or a balance between the two. It's either or. So I think as time has gone by, there are more women, and it's probably equal now, but back when I started, and I'm sure before that, it was a male-dominated part of nursing. I don't know if it was just a stigma. Women are smaller. They actually get around the aircraft better than a lot of our bigger guys. So I'm not sure why that occurred, but right now, over the last few years, well, several years, it's about half and half. You run into problems sometimes with the 24-hour shifts. If you're a young mother and have young children, then 24-hour shifts can be very difficult for you and your family. So you'll see a lot of older people come in with older children. We do have younger people that fly, or crew members that fly pregnant and then have their babies and then come back. Kudos to them. I don't know that I could have done that, but they're brave souls. I'm Canadian, so I'm non-hostile. My dad moved us all down here as a physician. He's retired now. He moved us all down here because of socialized medicine, and U.S. was recruiting heavy back then. So I actually live in Kentucky. I live in a little town called Gracie. It's between Hopkinsville and Cadiz. My dad lives in Cadiz, and all my family all around there. I love Clarksville. I actually, until I moved home to be closer to my dad because he fell ill, actually lived in Clarksville. So I love Clarksville, love the restaurants, love the people. It's an awesome town. My youngest daughter is an emergency room nurse as well, and she did have the opportunity to do a ride along with us one day, and she flew with me. It was for about a period of 8 hours, and we actually had this transport that was a very critical scene flight, so no hospital care yet. So we initiated care for this patient, and the patient was very sick. I don't think I've ever seen her eyes so wide before in my life. She really didn't expect what she saw, and she's lived with this all her life and heard me tell stories about the helicopter and things like that, so that was a real eye-opening for her. A lot of people thank us for what we do and they call us heroes, but really to us we're not heroes. This is our job, this is what we're trained to do, and to be blessed to have someone invite you into their life at their most difficult time in their life and to see them, to make sure they get to the hospital safely and to initiate care on them is really a blessing. For those that we do see after transports, after they're been cured, then it's really a thing that we don't encounter a lot. Usually we transport the patient, we have our 25 minutes with them, and then they go off. So we're just a small portion in this traumatic event that's happened to them in their life. And to be able to help someone survive or make them feel better in their time of need is definitely a blessing from God. I mean, I'm so happy that I was chosen to do this profession.
Today I'm on shift at Vanderbilt Life Flight 3 in Clarksville, Tennessee. I am one of the nurses, and we are the medical team that work actually in the back of the aircraft. So if and when we get a call either to a hospital for interfacility or a scene call for EMS, such as a wreck on the interstate or anything like that, it would be me and my partner that would actually care for the patient once EMS or the ER physicians and staff give us the care of the patient at that point in time. We not only care for the patient, but we actually do a continuity of care. But we may also expedite or maybe change a little bit of the interventions that we possibly can do via our protocols and what we're allowed to do as far as our medical directors have given us the permission to do. I have been in the medical field about 28 years. I started off in a very small rural town, grew up and decided I wanted to go to the big city, so I moved to Cookeville, Tennessee. Worked up there in their CVICU for about 2 or 3 years in their open heart unit, and then decided I needed a bigger move. So being in between Nashville and Knoxville, I decided to come to Nashville. So went to Nashville and started working at Vanderbilt in 1999. We actually just did our numbers, and I have 1,553 transports. We're not first responders, so someone else is always responding to the patient first. Either the patient goes to the emergency department or the ICU, or the local EMS will go to the car accident, heart attacks, strokes, or whatever, and they'll initiate the first line of care. And then if it's something that they feel like it needs a little bit more, it's outside of their scope, that's when we get called in. And again, it's a continuity of care, and then we may actually do some other interventions that we're allowed to do just based off of the training that we have versus the training that the local EMS has. We really concentrate on the safety aspects first, and that just takes a little while, even to the point of how do you put a seatbelt on in an aircraft? How do you put a helmet on in the aircraft? Not only that, but how do you take those things off? When I have new crew members come on board and they start getting antsy, and I look at them and say, until that pilot gets upset, there's no reason for you to get upset. And the thing about it is if he gets upset, there's absolutely nothing you can do anyway. So he is going to take care of you, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, and that's to go home to our family. At the very end of each flight, we all sort of kind of group as a crew, and we call it a debrief. And essentially we go, okay, is there anything that we could have done better? Is there anything that we did really well, like for best practice? And then typically we'll just talk about the flight itself. The bases actually have 4 pilots, and they're consistently here. So you'll usually have 2 pilots that will cover a day shift and a night shift, and then the next go around it'll be a day shift and night shift. So they're more consistently here. Each base, to be fully staffed, has anywhere from 10 to 12 crew members, and that's a mixture of registered nurses and paramedics. My journey is a little bit different than everyone else's. I started in the emergency room at Vanderbilt as a staff nurse, moved myself up into a charge nurse, and had always seen Life Flight come in and thought that would be something I wanted to do. "35% of our nurses have advanced degrees, meaning they have masters in something. So they have a master's in science, and we've got some that are education, some that are informatics, some that is leadership. So coming to work here is fun, but it also is mentally a challenge because you can't be lazy when you come here because you have so many of these minds that are so smart and that you're just going and you just want knowledge like they want it. So the next thing you know, you swear you're never going to go back to school, and the next thing you know, you're back into school. So, I mean, I said after my BSN, wasn't going to go back to school. 10 years later, went back and got my master's degree in acute care nurse practitioner. Said that was it. Went back 10 years later and got my doctorate degree at Vanderbilt. I got my DNP at Doctor of Nursing Practice at Vandy. Said that was it, and then a year later went back and got my family nurse practitioner. I'm a workaholic. I love what I do. I work at Lifelight because it is a fun job. It's the best job I've ever had. However, I'm also a nurse practitioner, so I will do nurse practitioner on the side and do that. But you know, a lot of times I've gotten to the age now that I just like to sit on my back patio with my family and just enjoy not really doing anything, because when you're in this industry, you are constantly on the go, and sometimes you just gotta take your time and just relax and just enjoy the day and not really do anything, you know, per se, as far as that goes. Obviously traveling is always there, you know, but sometimes it's just being at home and on my back patio and not doing anything. So this is one of the things I tell everybody. I grew up in a rural town. I grew up in Pickett County. It's the smallest county in the state of Tennessee. So you got a small town boy who was not supposed to do half the things that I was supposed to do. And so if you feel like you have a dream, go for the dream, because it can happen.
For current and exclusive content, subscribe to CDE Lightband, connecting you at the speed of light.